Hello, I'm Eva, and I'm presenting the paper Creative Toying with Cultural Heritage in Game Jams, co-authored with Kim Enrique from Aarhus University. Let me start by describing the motivation and title for this paper. Park and colleagues raised a discussion about how cultural diversity and inclusivity within the global game industry is still lagging behind its ever-diversifying reality. Others suggest more research into investigating the creative toying with cultural heritage aspects in game development and on potential collaborations between games based on regional cultural heritage and the GLAM sector. We, in our project, aim to find a format for youth that not only incorporate cultural heritage into new games, but also to be explicit about it, increase awareness on how they are part of creating culture and values, and where the games become vehicles of expression, a culture on its own right. Let's first have a look at the ingredients. We have two main divisions of ingredients. First of all, the foundations, culture, values, citizenship, and games. And then we have the involved actors in the project, namely researchers from higher education, creative industries, cultural heritage institutions, and youth. Together, these make up cultural game jams, the format for youth's creative toying with cultural heritage in game development that we are trying to develop in this project. The main research objective is therefore to scaffold youth's creative toying with cultural heritage in game jams in order to increase youth's empowered participation in cultural heritage and the cultural diversity and inclusivity within the global game industry. And we do this within a European project entitled Epic We. We are running game jams in 3 countries, but this paper is based on work in Denmark. The cultural game jam format is iteratively developed through design-based research, where we continuously develop, test, evaluate, redesign both the actual game jam format, its toolbox, and theoretical models. What we report on in this paper is just one small part of the whole project, the first cultural game jam in Denmark. Before the actual game jam, we ran a pilot with 40 high school students for 6 hours. Here we could try out some of the toolbox materials and facilitation. Our learnings from that was brought into the next iteration, the first real cultural game jam in Denmark. This time it was run for 36 hours in a weekend in an art museum with 23 youth who spent their night at the museum. We used a broad recruitment strategy in our networks, which resulted in an age span from 15 to 23 years and with various backgrounds such as audio design and dramaturgy. In order to elicit experiences and learnings from this game jam into the iterative development of the next, we looked for various methods and ways to analyze the cultural game jam. We came across 2 methods deemed suitable for this, the applied game jam framework and the analytical framework for creativity methods. These methods were applied to our data collected through interviews, observations, and questionnaires. In the applied game jam framework, we are diving into 4 dimensions in facilitating and evaluating an effective applied game jam. The first one is the problem space, and then the jam design, followed by jam delivery and outcomes, and finally follow-up opportunity. For the problem space, here we looked into the expected outcome and brief. The expected outcome is to foster empowered participation in cultural heritage and cultural heritage institutions for young people who do not necessarily see themselves as belonging or being engaged in these domains. The design brief given to the participant was, the task is to design a value-based cultural game based on a value, some culture, and related to a societal challenge. When analyzing the jam design, we studied the program and the cultural game jam process model. The model comprises 4 distinct phases and 4 transition tools. The 4 phases are followed by the concluding expo, where the participants showcase their created game concepts or prototypes. In addition, the participants were provided with inspirational design methods in each phase. The Game Jam program included a guided art walk in the Art Museum's gallery and inspirational talks by, for instance, a professional game developer. In Jam Delivery and Outcomes, we analyzed the 5 games and their documentation in itch.io, but also the experiences of the actors in the Quadruple Helix innovation system, also the participants and the recruitment, and also the ethics. In the follow-up opportunity, we analyzed the organizer and participants' perspective, the cultural game jam format, and further partnership initiatives in order to find constructive ways forward. We further applied the framework for creativity methods in design to discuss how the key concepts from design and creativity research align with the cultural game jam format. This analysis is divided into the concrete, conceptual, and the design space aspect. The concrete aspects of design and creativity consist of the structural and tangible procedures for organizing and using a creativity method, and are built around process structure, materials, and tools. We analyzed the program, the game jam process model, the ideation wheel, and method cards. The conceptual aspects of creativity methods consist of how ideas and concepts emerge and transform, and are built around combination, metaphor, and analogy. Here we, for instance, look into how the various method cards support some of these aspects. A design space aspect is built up around the aspects of framing, divergence, and convergence, such as how the first two phases of the process model was designed to support divergence, while the final two phases support convergence. After analyzing the data with the two methods, we have come to certain insights. For instance, striking a balance between the research project's needs and the participants' needs is really delicate. Certain things, such as informed consent according to GDPR rules, must be part of such a research project, although they tire the participants. If we were just running it as a game jam without the research, then some of this paperwork would not be necessary. So this conflict between the needs of the research project and the needs of the participants goes again several times. One participant say, I know the point of this game jam was not to be just another game jam, but to be a research project. But I also want to point out that if you want to study these things, you have to do it in a way where the act of observing should not fundamentally alter the field and the thing you're trying to observe. A representative from the game jam industry said, I have never tried a game jam that is this focused on the process. We use it sometimes internally in the company. Typically, it is more focused on a specific product. Another challenge to balance was the documentation of the games. Some participants were proud of having their games published online, such as, I like that all of the games were put up and made public on the website. It meant that I can now easily find and show others what we made together. Others were more inclined to redesign the whole documentation part. One participant said, the development process was exhausting and unnecessary. It seemed like a lot of unnecessary writing where we could have used our time differently. Again, this shows how aware the participants are of the researchers' need, and also that this causes some conflict. So for the next iteration, we're considering how to tone down the needs of the research project while still reaching the project objectives and collecting the necessary data. To conclude, we aim to find a format for youth and perhaps future game developers to not only incorporate cultural heritage, such as art and values, into novel concepts of games, but also to be explicit about it, increase awareness of how they are part of creating culture and values, and where the games become vehicles of expression, a culture on its own right. In this first step, we have curated what part of the cultural heritage can be included and what values in order to reflect the local cultural heritage. But the possibilities are endless. We also argue for how the Quadruple Helix innovation system can enable new and meaningful collaborations between cultural heritage institutions, university researchers, creative industries, and youth to reconfigure and give rise to novel interrelationships and modes of participation in innovation and research. Considering the diversity in the participants' backgrounds and genders, it can possibly also be a way to fight the lack of cultural diversity and inclusivity in the global game industry. However, as for now, future interventions of the Cultural Game Jam will have to show more on this. Thank you for listening.